So a big part of the process is also talking to teachers around you, whose help you might need. So some colleges will require teacher letters of rec, and your application is incomplete without these letters. And some schools may say optional, and some may say none at all. So again, like if I'm on Common App, I can check the college information for each school I'm applying to, and I can see what colleges require the letters, what colleges say they're optional, and what colleges say they won't look at any letters. So I can determine that on the platform I'm applying on, or I can just look on the admissions page for that college and see what's required there too. Um, so you might need some teachers to support your application. If that's the case, we start early, right? So we want to start asking in August and September to give your teachers plenty of time to actually generate a positive quality letter. So there's so many teachers, like so much love for these wonderful teachers who will take a last minute request and they'll do the best they can to help a student out. But unfortunately, we didn't give them the opportunity to be able to actually draft it out with time. And that's what we want to do. Like, A, we don't want to put a teacher in that kind of position. And B, you want letters turned in about you to be reflective of you in the best light, right? So we want to make sure we're doing that. You can approach a teacher either way. I've had students they say they're very brave. They are social, a little braver, and they will go right up to a teacher face to face and ask if they will support them in writing the letter of rec for their college applications. Maybe if you're a little more shy, you'll lose your words maybe. An email is perfectly adequate as long as you follow up. So if you email a teacher a nice, respectful letter on how you need their support for letters of rec, how you believe they're going to be one of the best voices to tell those qualities about you and their experiences with you in the classroom. Ask your question there, and you can follow up maybe a few days later. Just make sure they got the email and see what's going on. So you will need to ask teachers if your schools require letters of recommendation. And it's important to note what kind of letters. So if I'm going into, if I'm applying to MIT, for example, they require a STEM letter, so math or science, and a letter from the humanities. So that's English, social studies, and so on. So I need to be very strategic about who I ask in those situations. So being clear on if a letter of rec is required and if they're specifying what kind of teacher needs to write those letters.
Yeah, thank you. Because I think that's important, right? Thinking about, the timing, thinking about strategically, right? And paying very close attention to, does the school require letters of recommendation? Does it not? Does it absolutely not, accept them? But then are there specifics around who I should ask or particular subject matter? So I think absolutely thinking about all of those things. One thing that also I wanted to remind students of, because I find, like, especially if you are, top 10%, or those students tend to have the same teachers, and those teachers tend to get bombarded with requests for letters of recommendation. Yeah, and so getting to them early, so that, one, you're sort of beating the rush, but then two, you're, like you said, giving them time to draft a letter. I'll even suggest to students, if there's this particular, if it's a sponsor or somebody that was a coach or somebody, that even giving them some, sort of like maybe things that they want to highlight about the student, or some experience that they had. Maybe they were, like I said, a sponsor or coach. Because sometimes I know for me, as a if I'm writing letters for grad school, I'll often tell my students, I'll ask them for a resume, but I'll often ask them, like, is there something you'd like me to highlight? Is there a particular skill or characteristic? You talked about, when crafting your personal statements, right, your values, your interests, things like that. And so I'll often ask my students, right, is there something you want me to highlight? And then I can tailor the letter around those things and really mention, or just focus in on those things. So I think I thank you for reminding us about the letters of recommendation, thinking strategically about them, but also paying attention to the schools and what are the schools looking for of the student.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and saying this, let's not do this, kiddos, but we don't want to ask for like 5 letters of rec on a whim. And these teachers generate these letters for you. And at the end of the day, you tell them, never mind. Um, that was time that they took away from either a conference period or a weekend to write you a letter. So let's be very strategic about who we ask, so that we're not asking more of some of these teachers who are probably really stretched thin already.
I love that. Thank you.